Come one, come all to see the eighth wonder of the world, the flying pachyderm. Now, how does Tim Burton's 2019 film compare to the original 1941 Walt Disney classic? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Thomas from TLEV Media here to provide you all a spoiler-free review of Dumbo, Tim Burton's adaptation of the 1941 classic film. The 1941 Disney classic Dumbo was released in 1941 in a very significant part of Walt Disney history. So how does this movie fare up against the classic? Well, I'm going to talk to you all about the plot, the characters, and the use of visual effects in this film. Plot. Since this is an adaptation of the 1941 classic, there of course are some of the same beats, such as the Casey Jr. circus train, Dumbo losing his mother, and the clown sequence. But one difference is the lack of Timothy the Mouse. Instead of the lovable rodent, we have the two characters of Millie and Joe Ferrier, the children of the circus troupe. Played by Nico Parker and Finley Hobbins, the two children are... It's not so much the children's fault as it is the writing of this film, but the children really don't play a big part in the film other than they are the ones who discovered Dumbo's flying ability. And another thing, because of the children's placement in this film, Dumbo kind of becomes a supporting character to his own movie. The plot that remains the same between this movie and the original is the fact that Jumbo Jr. is born with big ears, is ridiculed by an audience that then gives him the name Dumbo, but instead of it being mean elephants, it's actually the audience itself. One difference in Dumbo's flight from the original and this movie is the fact that people can ride Dumbo while he's flying. While it may seem odd to add this to the character of Dumbo, it makes sense when you think about the audience. How do the children who attend Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom and Disneyland interact with Dumbo? They ride him. So this film really adds on to that lore that for children to have that experience with Dumbo on the silver screen and at the parks, this was a great way to promote that. Unlike the original film where it ends with Dumbo embracing his flight powers and the circus making massive money from it, a sinister Emperor of Enchantment, V.A. Vanderveer, who is played by Michael Keaton, wants to buy Dumbo from the Medici Brothers Circus. Max Medici, who is played by Danny DeVito, more on his performance later, agrees to this with the caveat that the entire circus troupe will have a home in this venture known as Dreamland. Now, the overall structure of Dreamland reminds me a lot of another Disney classic, Pinocchio, where Pleasure Island looks to be this safe haven, a place for rascal children to go and have at it and have tons of fun being children. Dreamland has different ventures and different exhibits and different animals, but overall it has one massive performance. Mr. Vanderveer picks up Dumbo because he wants to expand his fortune to have Dreamland be the home of this flying pachyderm. Now, of course, the Ferrier family discovers the dark secrets of Dreamland and, well, the rest is in the movie. The adaptation from the original Dumbo film it's very much that. It's an adaptation. There's a lot of leeway coming from the screenplay writer of Tron Legacy, which was also a filmed adaptation of a previous property. But this movie doesn't feel like a Tim Burton film, just from the plot. First of all, the color schemes are all over the place. Yes, Tim Burton likes to use his dark colors, but there are no bright colors to contrast it. I mean, see examples of Alice in Wonderland, Dark Shadows, Beetlejuice. There are moments where there are a plethora of colors. Except for two scenes in Dumbo, it really feels like this isn't a Tim Burton film. Now let's talk about characters. First and foremost, Danny DeVito's portrayal of Max Medici, the circus ringmaster and owner, is fantastic. When I saw the cast of this film having Ava Green, Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Colin Farrell, all Academy Award winning and Academy Award nominated actors, I had high expectations, to say the least. And unfortunately, those expectations were not met in this movie. I'm not sure if it was because of the writing or if it was because of scheduling, but it really didn't feel like the actors took their roles seriously. The only exception being Danny DeVito, who does an outstanding performance as Max Medici. He is the comic relief, and he is also the soul of this film. From the very beginning, he's here to tell you that this is an adaptation of the classic, not the remake that everyone is expecting. Colin Farrell also does a great job playing a World War I veteran trying to make a living with the fact that his wife died from influenza. But the most disappointing performance has to be Michael Keaton's V.A. Vanderveer. The character of V.A. Vanderveer is to serve as the antagonist of the film, very much like the Vulture was in Spider-Man: Homecoming. And Michael Keaton was fantastic in that role. This is also not the first time that he's working with Tim Burton, as he did Batman, Batman Returns, and Beetlejuice with Tim Burton. So I'm left wondering, why does it feel so disingenuous? Michael Keaton's performance is almost as if just to pick up a paycheck. Michael Keaton does not breathe life into this character. Rather, it's very much a cookie-cutter villain. From someone with his background, I was very, very disappointed at the fact that this was not one of his greater performances. Instead, this is probably one of his most forgettable performances. Another disappointing fact were the children. The children were there to make up for the role of Timothy the Mouse. They were to be the voice of the voiceless, and I wasn't buying it. Their performances were very monotonous, very static characters. I'm not sure if it was the writing or if it was the coaching or the directing, but these young actors really didn't have a chance to develop their characters further than the fact that they were just children of the circus. Now I want to talk about the visual effects in this film. Dumbo, of course, the titular character of this film, is all CGI. His beautiful blue eyes, and when he has his floppy ears, well, he's very cute. You see him flying around, it's very believable. You want to sympathize with this poor baby elephant. But there are moments where it feels like rendering for Dumbo and the characters who ride him wasn't fully rendered. There's a moment in the story when Dumbo and the circus troupe then live on Dreamland to serve as the next big act. And Dumbo is training to be the big act with Eva Green, who plays Colette Marchand. Their act is supposed to be that Colette climbs upon Dumbo and flies around the tent. But what we see is not very believable, at least from afar. When it's up close, you see Eva Green, or when you see one of the other characters ride Dumbo, it's very believable that they are on the eighth wonder of the world. But when it's a long distance shot, it looks really, really low quality. And this is from a company that's made fantastic CGI advances in the past 5 years alone. There are other moments in the film where perhaps it was reshoots, but the background looks very fake when a character is having a discussion with another character. Yes, they're probably in a soundstage, but make it more believable. I will, however, give props to the visual effects department for creating Dreamland, which looks spectacular, and it shows a childlike wonder that V.A. Vanderveer must have had when he created Dreamland. Overall, for an audience that is specific towards children, this is a great film. This adaptation brings a classic story to a modern audience, and it's fantastic for that. However, I'm very much in love with the original 1941 version, and this one just didn't make it for me. But then again, I'm not the intended audience. So, if you have a young one in your party, I would recommend seeing this movie. But if you love the original Dumbo, this one won't make you love it any less, but it won't add anything else to the story other than this is a different version of Dumbo, and this is a different version of events that this Dumbo has gone through. All in all, this movie wasn't for me, but I want to hear your thoughts about the Dumbo film if you've seen it already. If not, make sure to check it out this Friday, March 29th. And of course, my name is Thomas. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media at TLEV Media. Check out our website for a full in-depth review of this film. And I will see you all in the next video.